Okay, so I wasn't actually thinking. I didn't think about this today because I thought we were doing something else. But okay, so let me put myself under stress so you can see it. Okay, I didn't stretch, so this is gonna be ugly. Okay, so you gotta count for me. Ready? Oh, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, so what happened? Teaching's hard. Okay, so I turn red. I turn red at everything. So why did I turn red? Heart rate goes up. What else? Why can't I talk? So respiration goes up. Heart rate goes. Oxygen level goes down. Okay. So what happens to your body temp? So I feel warmer. Okay, so body temp goes up. What happens to your muscle? They get tense. Okay? So did I get into a state of like a workout? No. This is a state called alarm. So when your body is in a state of alarm, writing on black with black is awesome. All these things happen. So if I take a couple long, slow breaths, what happens to my heart rate? It goes down. What happens to my respiration eventually? It goes down. My body temperature will also go back down. So whenever you have a state of alarm, your body will react by doing what? Well, I'm not warming up. What I just did was put myself into a state of alarm. That is stress. That's not exercise. Well, people say, oh, you just worked out. That's not exercise. That is stress. Now, if I wanted to work out, what would I do? Yeah, I might want to stretch a little bit first, okay? But am I getting teacher pits? No, how come I'm not sweating? Because I didn't work out. And so what happens is, after you go into a state of alarm, your body goes into, got to keep breathing, goes into a state of resistance. Not a resistance, I'm sorry. Body goes into recovery. So the opposite of alarm is recovery. Okay, so whenever you go in you put yourself under stress, remember the system that causes stress, that causes alarm? Fight or flight. What is it? Use the real words. Sympathetic nervous system. Your medulla. Okay, so I'm going to draw your brain right here. Looks like a dinosaur. Roar. Okay. Okay, there's your thalamus. Here's your amygdala. Here's your hippocampus. And I'm going to draw this in orange. What's the part of your brain that circulates the hormones? Hypothalamus. Excellent. I'm going to call you a nerd. Okay, so your medulla activates this thing that sits on top of your kidney. That's a terrible looking kidney. So I'll label it. What is this thing that activates on top of your kidney? Adrenal, it's called adrenal cortex. Okay, so the adrenal cortex secretes a chemical called cortisol, which is also called adrenaline. Okay? Cortisol goes up to your pituitary gland, which releases a chemical called ACTH. Pituitary gland, when cortisol is sensed in the pituitary gland, it goes, oh, stress. Here's some stress. The ACTH is released from the pituitary and goes to your Kidney, which causes cortisol to be released. So it took me not that long to do 10 burpees. What's great is if you do, anybody ever seen the Spartan races? If they screw up one of the tasks, they have to do 30 burpees, and they have to do them right. I did today, I did pretty right, but last semester I did a really hard workout, and then I realized that this was the lecture. I'm like, crap. So I'm trying to do the push-ups, my arms are so tired. I didn't go all the way down. Like that, somebody in the front, that doesn't count. Anyway, but imagine doing 30 burpees then. What happens? Well, yeah, I probably would pass a little. I'm not the most cardiovascular fitness right now. But your kidney would start producing a lot of adrenaline. So what's interesting is if you have, I'll draw this 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your hand and a big bicep. Rah. What is that? What does the bicep represent in this little drawing? Yeah. The muscle. What the muscle does, I'm going to draw this in green. If the muscle gets cortisol, the muscle gets stronger. Yes, gets cortisol, gets adrenaline. Your muscle gets stronger and uses more oxygen. You know, cortisone. Yeah, you don't get a cortisol shot. That would be bad. It's like an EpiPen. Yeah, just don't do that. Okay. So when your body starts needing more oxygen, what does it do? It sends a signal up into your medulla to tell you to breathe harder. So my respiration is back to normal, not over-respirating in. So my recovery is now officially over. My heart rate's still a little bit high because your heart is attached to the medulla as well. So when the cortisol gets released, your heart stays beating a little bit faster just to flush out everything else. But the alarm phase, is it complicated? Yeah, it's really complicated. There's a lot of things going on in the alarm phase. And the alarm phase is meant to run away and hide or jump or escape. So by my heart rate going up and my muscles tensing up, do I get stronger and faster during my alarm? Yes. Good for you. However, what happens if you don't warm up? I'm not going to pull anything doing burpees. That's why I'm not doing burpees. But if you try to just roll out of bed and try to squat, a really heavy weight, without doing anything, what happens? You're going to pull something because if the muscles get a tremendous amount of force, but there's not a lot of blood flow, the muscles can't contract smoothly. So one part of the muscle contracts more than the other part, and not good. Just get old. You'll just see what it feels like. Or fall downstairs. Not good. Okay. So the worst part about this is, or the best part about this is it's natural. If you go into alarm and then you sit for a minute, or how did I get my respiration back? Take long, slow, deep breaths. You call them cleansing breaths, or you can call them whatever you want. You can do focusing breaths. But what you do is you take a big breath, clears out the CO2, and your body's oxygen levels balance, which tells the medulla to stop releasing adrenaline, and the muscles are now then relaxed. The muscles aren't tired or pumped or anything anymore. So what would make this a workout then? Yeah, so if I just kept doing burpees until I couldn't, that's actually not a good workout either. Because that's pushing my state of alarm. So what you want to do is you want to balance alarm and recovery. That is a workout. Okay, so I'm going to draw this on the next slide. Okay. Oops. So what we see is that if I put myself into a state of alarm, I'm going to draw this as, here's my stress in my state of alarm. My stress levels go up. But if I then take a little bit of a break and stretch, or burpees are pretty intense exercise, what's a better way to warm up than just jumping into burpees? Jumping jacks. We like jumping rope. Jumping rope is really good. Does jumping rope use a lot of muscles? No, it uses your calf muscles. Your calf muscles are very good at processing oxygen. You use your calf muscles all the freaking time, and they process oxygen extremely well. Okay. Another really good way to warm up is to do 10 air squats. You just squat and then stand up. Because what do you use? Your quads. Your quads and your butt use the most oxygen and the most calories of any parts of your body. So if you just start walking, that's a good way to warm up. But if you just go for a walk across campus and your heart rate doesn't go up, your respiration doesn't go up, are you putting yourself in a state of alarm? No, it's good for you, but it's not a workout. Nope, you gotta walk fast. You gotta get to the point where you feel that alarm, because your body needs to activate that. Then what happens is once your alarm is activated, the first couple times you work out, you stay in alarm, and I'm gonna draw this in a dotted line, and then you go like this, bonk. What's bonking? You're done with your workout. What happens is you run out of energy. And if you're out of shape, like the last time we went skiing over Christmas, my quads gave out. By the time the second day, I drop into a turn, and I'm like, ah! Both quads are super tired. And I said, whoa, I didn't realize that my legs were that out of shape. Because I work out a lot, but not the muscles the way that they were being used at that time. So I fatigued very quickly. So we call this exhaustion. So exhaustion means that you have no gas in the tank. Okay, in other words, no oxygen and no what? Glucose. Your muscles use glucose. You need glucose. And so when you get to this point of exhaustion, no oxygen, no glucose, the muscles just don't work. And they can't make ATP. Intro, we just keep it simple. And it was the point where, like, at the end of the day, I bent down to take my skis off, and I fell over. I'm like, oh no! My quads just had nothing left. Which, to me, was an enjoyable sensation. Okay. However, do you want to work out to exhaustion? No, because what happens when you're exhausted? Well, yes, the quitting factor is very high, because it feels crappy, but what do you do when you get exhausted? Well, so let's say you are going for a run. Let's say you're trying to do a stupid marathon. Try it, bias. What happens at the end of the marathon? You don't fall. People don't fall, but they start running differently. So as opposed to nice running, you're going. But so and if you're running like, we call it the zombie march at the end of the marathon. If you're running like a zombie, guess what happens to your knees and your hips and your shins? You're hurting yourself when you get to exhaustion. You can push through exhaustion, but you increase the probability of hurting yourself when you push through exhaustion. It's more than, so let me draw the rest of this and then we'll get to this, because there's one of the CrossFitty folks that I like, calls there's a dark place. And the dark place, so when you get through a state of alarm, then you go to a state called resistance. That shows up okay. When you go into a state of resistance, you're still producing cortisol, except what's happening to the stress on your body. Is it higher or lower? Lower. There you go. Okay, so when you're in a state of resistance, something happens. It's called a positive feedback loop. Yeah. Well, I always gauge a workout by how I feel the next day. Like when you took your jacket off when you walked in here. Injury or a successful workout? Because you try, like, I wanted to see if I could power clean 200 pounds. Yes, I can power clean 200 pounds. Yes. Driving up on Friday after doing that, my deltoids were, I probably used a little more upper body than I should have to finish the clean, but both deltoids were just killing me sore. Completely different than when this really hurts. because both arms were so sore when I was trying to like hold on to the steering wheel while we were driving. I'm like, yeah, that was a good workout. So when you get a positive feedback loop, so positive feedback means I add cortisol, pituitary then adds ACTH, which adds more cortisol. So once you get into this warm-up, so once you go past the state of alarm, if you keep moving, the HPA axis starts activating. So then do you need to keep moving in order to keep warming up? Now, what's causing the cortisol release? The adrenaline itself. Adrenaline causes adrenaline. You can easily see feedback. I did this in the digital theater one semester. I didn't realize the microphone on the podium was turned on. And so at the beginning, when I teach in digital theater, it's really cool. They have a epic sound system in there. So I always play the THX sound that they play at the beginning of movies. And the sound hit the microphone. The microphone played through the speakers and just went, and everybody's like, ah! And the tech guy comes running in and unplugs the microphone and walks away with the microphone looking at me, Dad. I'm like, the microphone's never been on in there, never been plugged in before. How did I know that was going to be awful? And it has a feedback loop circuit in it. So it sent the computer up in the booth. If that happens, will kick itself off. Because can you blow a speaker that way? Yes. If you play a sound, amplify it, you listen to that sound, and then play it and amplify it and listen to it, and it just gets perpetually louder until something explodes. Which is awesome if you're a metal band, but not awesome if you have to fix a digital theater with my $600 psych budget. Moving on. So your positive feedback loop gets you in a state of resistance. When you're in a state of resistance, this is when you're working out. You're burning a tremendous amount of calories. Doing 10 burpees, hardly a calorie. I'm not burning hardly any calories doing 10 burpees. But if I did 10 sets of 10, what would happen? I will start burning calories because what's really strange is that by the first set's miserable. But then the second, third, fourth, fifth set, good. Sixth set, I'm getting tired. Seventh set, I'm counting. Eighth set, I skip 8. 7, 9. My wife is going, you skipped 8. No, I didn't. Anyway, but by the time you get to 10, you're like jumping at the end. Because you've gotten to you've run out of gas. Especially if you just keep pushing at it. But what's a way to do 100 burpees without running into exhaustion? Stop for a second, because as soon as you stop with this HPA axis flowing, your body refuels itself very quickly. And this is actually one of the signs of fitness. It's not how hard you can go, but how fast you recover and how many times you can go, how many more can you do. That's why I think the Spartan races are really impressive. Person's running a 10K, doing challenges along the way, and if they screw up, they have to do 30 burpees. The fact that they can go, do 30 burpees, and then get back up and keep going, are they really fit? Yeah. It's very impressive to me. So can you just stay in resistance forever? No, because what happens is over time, your stress levels go higher and higher and higher. And as the stress levels go higher and higher and higher, there's a point, this is why I drew the bonking down here, there's a point right here we call the dark place. What is that dark place? You're not dead yet, but you feel dead. And when you're in that dark place, that's when you are super tired and you're just like, oh, I can't do this. And then you have an angry trainer yelling at you, and what can you do? You'll yell back at them, but all of a sudden, you actually do it. Like my wife and her friends went to this boxing gym for a long time, and this one guy was the trainer, and the stuff that he was having my wife do as far as a workout goes, she never thought she could possibly do. Like she's doing planks, reverse plank flying on a balance ball. So you're lying on one of those giant squishy balls, and you put your arms out, and you put your feet out, and you try to balance. And then what he would do is he would drop a medicine ball on her hand or her feet. Not a big one, just a little one, but still, what would she have to do? Balance. And so you have to if you keep your core super tight, and then if you drop the ball, it doesn't throw your balance off. But if you're a little bit squishy in the middle, you you spin, you flip over. And she goes, I never thought I could do that. Tony, that was his trainer name. But even though she never thought she could she? Because she never would push herself past this point. Because if you're doing an exercise and you get here, you say, I quit. I want to stop. Because your body says, no gas. However, you have more gas than you think. Your body has a valve in it somewhere that says, stop, you're going to hurt yourself. But it turns out that can you push yourself past that stop? Yes. Should you do that every single time you work out? No. And that's where I separate from myself from the CrossFit folks, because a lot of my CrossFitty friends say you have to go into that dark space every time you work out to get a good workout. And that's why you see a lot of CrossFitty folks with injuries. Because it's not that they push themselves too hard, they push themselves too much. To see the difference? Because, I mean, it's like one of my students, Scott Perry, at the end of a really long workout, they had a max power clean. And that's, maxing a power clean is, it's a very athletic move, and if you get in the wrong position, you can seriously hurt yourself. Just look at CrossFit fails on YouTube. And he did 285, like it was nothing, at the end of a hard workout. And so what does that give him? It gives him mental fitness, mental strength. Because picking up heavy things gives you physical strength, but what gives you mental strength? Being able to realize that I can do more than I think I can. Okay, so that's actually kind of one of the annoying things about stress, is that so I wrote my day up here. This is today. The rest of the week is worse than it. So I got up at 4 this morning, and I'm not working out, but I finished writing some syllabi, so I should put some work in up here. But by 6 o'clock, my wife had to leave because she had an early meeting, and I get the kids up. 6:50, we leave the house. At 7:11, we drop the kids at the park. We drop it right at 7:11 every time, not at 7:11, but 7:11 after 7. I get I picked up my father-in-law, pot-in-law, picked him up at the car dealer. He was dropping his trailer off, get some recall. Anyway, and then 8:20, I show up on campus, right about there, between a class, and between 12 and 2, I have 8 hours of professional development to complete. Got that covered. Oh, I have to finish writing your final too, so. Okay. Then at 2:20, I have to get the kids Carpool from Pershing. At 2:30, I get the high school kids from Patrick Henry. At 3:30, my daughter has math tutoring to 4:30. 5 o'clock, I have to make dinner. 6 o'clock, my son has to get ready to go for his basketball game. 8 o'clock, my son's basketball game. Normal Weinert day. Okay, we call it Tuesday in the Weinert house. And so why is it stressful? I get a lot of break. Oh, I don't have break. My break is my driving between places I need to go. And at some point, I need to get the oil changed in the van and need to get, I should probably wash it. It's got a lot of road trip in it. Especially when my wife doesn't go. Because do we clean it up as we go when my wife's not in the car? No. Just say there's pork rinds in places. It's not good. Anyway, so I don't have a time to recover throughout the entire day. All the day is go, 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 go. And so, we get home at 9, take a shower, get stuff ready to go, get the coffee made ready for the morning, and then tomorrow morning it starts again at 4 a.m. when we go work out on Wednesday mornings. And day 2, we call it Wednesday. So with this much stress, how do you recover? How do you go into a state of recovery? When? So when I sleep, on the weekends we went skiing this weekend, so there's a good recovery method right there. We got in at 2 o'clock in the morning on Friday night, 1:30, got everything unpacked. That didn't take very long. I look out the window and the neighbor's chimney's on fire, so I go over to their house, bang on their door. Hey, you got a chimney fire. Who is it? It's your neighbor, you got a chimney fire. What do you want? You have a chimney fire, there's fire coming out of your house. The lady comes outside, she goes, holy crap, and goes inside. honey, get up, and just banging on him for a while, and then a few minutes he comes out, what? Holy crap. Anyway, they made us a cake. I don't eat cake, but the kids like it. Okay, but anyway, so finally sleep at 2:30-ish. Get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, make breakfast, make lunches, head out to the ski area, ski until 2. My son barfs all over the place from eating too many hot Cheetos at altitude, and which was really pretty on the snow. Some guy with his GoPro on was like looking at us, and they're like, "You just got all that on GoPro?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna delete that." Get back to the condo, get my son some mint tea, finally asleep by 9 o'clock that night. Same thing next day, no barf. And then drive home Monday morning. Relaxing, right? So how do you recover? So what happens is that for every alarm that you have to learn, good morning, okay? For every time that you have one of these alarms, I'm going to write this up here before I make this go away. This whole process is called the general adaptation syndrome. The whole thing is called the general adaptation syndrome. When your body goes into a state of alarm, what causes you to go into a state of resistance? The positive feedback loop of the, so H is hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal cortex. So the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary axis, puts yourself in a positive feedback loop. Once you warm up, once you first break a sweat, that's the trick of when you know you're warmed up, is because you sweat. That's not a workout, because I'm dry as I was when I started. I didn't break a sweat at all. Even if it's hot out, I probably won't break a sweat doing that, yeah. Well, it does, but if you work out at the same time all the time, sometimes you won't break a sweat. Like when it's super, super cold at the gym, are you sweating? Yeah, you're still sweating, it's just you're not. I am a prolific sweater. I have a very efficient cooling system. As my wife says, gross. So like sometimes at the gym, by the time we're done workout, even if it's cold, I am soaked. My shirt is completely soaked. My neighbor Pete is the same way. He is like just soaked. My wife, a little glow, just a little bit. So everybody has a different cooling system, and I just happen to sweat really well. Yeah, so that's, yeah, heart rate. One of the girls that we went, some friends of ours went with us up there, and her name's Jen. She is a health science major and into holistic crap. Weird. Moving on. She has this ring that she wears that keeps track of her biometric data throughout the day. Have you heard about it? Yeah, it's the guy that came up with the bulletproof coffee. Bulletproof coffee is where you put butter and coconut oil in your coffee when you drink it in the morning. It's keto nonsense. Butter and coconut oil. Well, you put ghee because it's not salty, so whatever. I like coffee. I got mint tea today. Pinky up. Okay. So whatever that fill-in fad here. But he made this really cool sensor ring that measures activity, measures heart rate, measures sleep cycles, and blood pressure, and all sorts of neat things through a ring. And it has an app on her phone. And so noticing your heart rate going up, that tells you're in a state of alarm. How do you know that you are recovering from that state of alarm? Your heart rate goes down. So if you have a Fitbit or you have your heart rate monitor on and you're working out, when I first start working out, like my heart rate probably went up to 110 doing those burpees, but then it's back down to 70 something or 60 something, what it is right now. But if I were to work out, you'll notice that after I'm on the rowing machine for 5 minutes, all of a sudden my heart rate goes, boom, it goes down. Then you know I'm warmed up. Well, then I can start stretching. Every time we get to the gym, we go 5 to 10 minutes on the rowing machine or the exercise bike, just not even trying to go hard. And as the time goes on, we start revving it up a little bit. Like on the rowing machine, it measures in watts, power. And so I'll put it up over 200 for the last minute or so. and then I really start huffing and puffing, then I stretch, heart rate comes down, and then I'm ready to work out. If I don't do that, I can't pick up as much weight. But because your body needs to get that access, HPA access, going in order to be most effective in working out. Okay, the annoying thing is this general adaptation syndrome was developed not by a sports guy, but by a psychologist, Hans Selye. He said that this is what happens when you have a test. Ah! And then you feel good while you're studying, then you're sitting there during the test, and dark place happens. You get exhausted. Like, you've all taken tests before where you're tired afterwards. Why are you so tired? You've used a ton of ATP while trying to figure out the answers on a particular test. And by using a tremendous amount of ATP, it makes you feel tired. There's a chemical called adenosine. Adenosine triphosphate. Well, adenosine in your brain is a chemical that signals fatigue. Caffeine, coffee, blocks adenosine. By blocking adenosine, guess what you don't feel? Tired. Are you still tired? Yes. But you don't feel tired. That's why when the coffee wears off, what happens? Thunk. The faster you ramp up in your coffee consumption, the faster you crash in your coffee consumption. So if you drink really high caffeinated things, don't you just stay on it for days? I had like crazy, on Sunday, it was so freaking cold and snowing, and so we went up once after lunch, and one run after lunch, and the snow was just rocking, it was freezing. The kids and I look at each other, we're done, we're done, we're out. And I probably drank 6 cups of coffee that afternoon. It was hot, good, and warm, and cold outside. I was doing school stuff. I had crazy psycho-paranoid dreams all night. I was being chased by this big dog, and it turned into like a car, which was turned into like Nazis going up the road like in a march, and it was awesome. But I'm like getting up, like, don't make eye contact, don't make eye contact. And it's going by, it's like a Jeep. I love it. Okay, but why would I have paranoid dreams? Oh, so withdrawals from the caffeine cause anxiety. And that's what the problem is sleeping when you have too much caffeine. The caffeine doesn't keep you awake, it's the withdrawals from the caffeine cause anxiety. And the anxiety causes anxiety. What's anxiety? Nah. Finish your coffee, you'll be fine. It's just withdrawals. Well, that's a behaviorist way. I wrote the behaviorist formula over there on the board so you could remember it. That's a behaviorist way. Fear is anticipation of punishment. Anxiety is future worry, future fear. Future fear. Not fear now, but afraid of the future. So that's why we use the word worry. Yeah. Well, that's actually very normal. You just get these little waves of panic. And that's probably due to the fact that you have a lot going on in your life, and your brain is doing a really good job at suppressing that waves of panic, but every so often you stop suppressing and wait. And you learn as you get older, you have these, I've been getting these a lot in the evening. Or as I'm getting ready to go to sleep, my brain's getting tired, and as my brain's getting tired, why do I get these little waves of anxiety? Like, how am I going to get everything done? How am I going to get everything done? No, sorry. Okay. Well, when you're tired, why are you going to get these waves of anxiety? Because you're in the dark place. So if you think about your mental activities as the same as physical activities, because it is. Your mental activities are activation of ATP, processing of nutrients and oxygen and blood flow. Same as your body. And so as a result, when you think about the idea of focusing on stress, you have to focus on health. So we talk about physical health and mental health. Yeah. Totally. It's called studying. Yeah, so one of the best ways to prepare for a test is to do your flashcards under timed situations, or have someone ask you questions, do things under pressure. Because then when you sit down at the test, what do you got? pressure, and your brain goes, oh, I remember doing this.
Isn't that more like working out for like say the boxer, you like same training to perform at the boxing event? I mean the boxer does the test.
I'm gonna keep with the CrossFit metaphor.
Okay.
So in CrossFit and the kind of workouts that we do, you don't do the same exercise all the time at all. I mean, there's some basic stuff that we do, but we do different stuff every single day. Because we don't want to get strong at doing arm curls. Muscle does not have memory. They contract and they relax. What we want is, the philosophy is you have a strong body. If you have a strong body, anytime you're challenged, what happens? You compensate for the challenge because it just becomes physical challenge, and your body knows how to respond to all sorts of different things. Like one of the workouts that I saw was on the CrossFit workout of the day was box jump burpees. Well, yeah, so you do a burpee, and then you jump up onto the box, and you jump down, drop, do a burpee, turn around, jump onto the box, and I can't turn in the air. And I really don't like jumping on top of boxes because I have bad Achilles. And if I jump too much, I'm afraid of this window shade sound. And just I'm afraid of this one just letting go. So I do a burpee and I step up on the box. Then I drop, do one, step up on the box. A little pansy-ish version of that. But is that ever going to come in handy in life? Doing burpees, stepping over a box? Maybe if I do a quick turn, I fall down, I pop my head back up, and I keep turning again. But again, it's stupid. But what it does is it puts your body under a state of challenge where your whole body's being used and your whole body's used to responding. So then one of my moron CrossFit friends decided to just pirate a half marathon. He's never run a half marathon before. So what does pirating a half marathon mean? You just jump in and run it. And so he's just, the marathon's about starting, and he's watching, and he's wearing running. He was out for a little jog. He's never run more than like 6 miles, and he's like, challenge accepted, and just went. And he got, 20, I forget what the times are. 48? Yeah, 48, an hour 48, which is like very close to my wife's best time. Her best time's 1:45. And so it's like, how could he just go run a half marathon? He's fit. He was so sore for like a week afterwards. My wife's had run multiple half marathons, and she never got sore afterwards. Half marathon, yeah. But he was up in San Francisco, and it was anyway. So, but he did great. I mean, he did a really, really good time for someone who's never, ever run that far before. But he said he's in good shape. So what does he know? How to recover. How to recover. That's the key for mental health and physical health. It's the ability to recover. And so I want to put this up in a slightly different way. That should you work out all the time? No. Do not work out all the time. Because if you work out all the time, what are you going to be in a state of? No, exhaustion. Like, if every day of the year were like today, what would happen? We'd be completely exhausted. If we went skiing every weekend and all weeks were like this, I'm tired now, and it's almost 10. God, take that off. Ooh, I have 2 hours in my office. I could take a nap. Yeah, what happens in that? Then what happens till tomorrow? I have 16 hours worth of professional development to do tomorrow. Anyway, so you can always put off today to do that tomorrow. But if someone speaks Spanish, there's a term. Tomorrow's the busiest day of the week. No, I know, but you say in Spanish, it sounds better. No, it's tomorrow's always the busiest day of the week. It's one of my, I don't know. But it's basically saying tomorrow's always getting busier every day. It sounds better in Spanish than English. Okay, but my friend, every time I put something off, my friend goes, he says it in Spanish. Like, dude, why do you have to say it in Spanish? He goes, I don't know, my grandma always said it. Don't put off today to so. So what can you do? What is it? No los hermanos. So tomorrow's the busiest day of the week. Or, so what does it translate that directly? Yeah, and then so tomorrow becomes the busiest day of the week. Yeah. Wow, it's crazy. It's almost as if it's like human nature. Yeah. It's like, because everybody knows if you don't do it today, it's like, hey, I'm not going to do laundry today. What do you got tomorrow? If you wear the same clothes. Yeah, by the end of the trip, Nico, I look at his hand, I'm like, dude, have you even bathed since we've been here? No. Did you bring a toothbrush? No. Not my kid. Okay. So what's the opposite of an alarm? Yeah, but how do you, if you're having an alarm that's putting yourself under stress, can you just say, okay, I'm going to recover now? But okay, a cool down, it's really easy with physical activity. Because if you challenge yourself, how did I recover from burpees? Breathing. Just not burping makes you recover. It would be so great if that worked for mental stress. Stress, not stress. But wait, how can you not think? Drugs. No. Well, a lot of people do like drugs because drugs, they numb your stress. They numb your thinking. If you numb your thinking, what happens? Is that a way of recovering? Turns out not. Well, it turns out not. That's like taking sleeping pills to get a good night's sleep. Yes, you are asleep all night. But is your brain getting cycles to sleep properly? No. And you end up, over time, taking sleeping medication. It helps you initially at the beginning because it helps you get that deep sleep, which helps your body recover so you don't get sick as fast. But mentally, you keep gadding on the TIM. It doesn't get digested. Some of the other ones, like there's like Ativan and there's a couple other ones, knock you out really fast, but then taper off as the night goes on, so you can't get your REM sleep in the morning. But your body adapts to them pretty quickly, so you have to up dosage and then icky. Okay, I'm going to write this up here. An uplift. So alarm is, I'm going to write this word up here. Cognitive appraisal theory. Alarm, based on the cognitive appraisal theory, is harm, loss, or... Whoa, what happened? I hit the button. Or threat. An uplift, based on cognitive appraisal theory, what do you think, what's the opposite of harm, loss, or threat? Yeah, gain or challenge. Challenge. So, there are uplifts, and there are things that cause alarm. So, an uplift causes stress, but how do you think about it? Well, you can't just say in a positive way, because that doesn't have a behavioral measure. So that's like, I want to say yes, but this is science. We need a behavioral measure. So if you see a dog coming at you, okay, if you produce an alarm, what are you thinking? It's going to bite me. So what your cognitive appraisal is, what do you think is going to happen next? This is your prefrontal cortex talking about what is the plan in response to this stimuli in my environment. If a dog comes toward me, I see uplift. Yay, doggo, I like dogs. Yeah, my son started that from stupid Instagram, so now we doggo in the house. But the idea of the uplift is that I see a dog, I'm like, yay, doggo, and I'm excited to see the dog. I'm not going to go stick my hand in a German Shepherd's face and go, hi, doggy, because I understand dog behavior, but I'm not threatened by a German Shepherd. I'm not threatened by a pit bull. because I'm happy to see dogs. I'm not threatened by snakes. I'm happy to see critters of all sorts. Unannounced spider sitting on me, I might scream like a little girl, but I don't hurt it. Okay, so we were kayaking in La Jolla. You know, we've seen sharks out there bigger than the kayak, which is nerve-wracking, but whatever. You're holding a fishbowl. Should I? No. Anyway, a seal pops up right here next to me in the kayak. Goes, "Hark!" Like, ah! I drop my paddle, my fishing pole, and things like, and you see it go down and pop up next to the other kayak. Ah! Damn seal! I have to go change my wetsuit. Okay, but is that a state of alarm when something startles you like that? Yes. Its startle response is immediately harm, loss, threat. Loud sound, startle response, immediately harm, loss, threat. You can't think your way out of that. So that's when you say you get the little wave of panic. It could just be startle. You get startled by something, and what does it trigger? Yeah, and what that is that is your amygdala. That's the alarm is your amygdala. You can't not have it because it's a part of your brain. People that don't have that often have a really hard time engaging in social activity and are oftentimes in prison because they don't care. They don't feel guilt. They don't feel anxiety. They don't feel alarmed by anything. Do we need this alarm, cognitive appraisal? Yes. It's very important for us. Okay? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, yes, because I'm a staunch non-pill person. I don't like taking medicine. However, and this might talking my psycho holistic, the other side of the world person who believes that you should weigh crystals over your head to cure your depression, almost literally. But so if you are so wound up with anxiety you can't think, can you think your way out of anxiety? No. So we'll talk about that in the second part of class today. What labels your stress as being you're stressed versus your stress as being a disorder? Bless you. Yeah. So social occupational functioning. We have a freaking busy schedule right now. And it lightens up a little bit later, but it's still really freaking busy. And because it's so busy, we have a lot to do. And so is there a reason that we're stressed right now? Yes, because so the environment matches the way we're feeling, and so that's pretty much it. We can't change the environment too much, so we just can adapt to what we can do. So the second part is that once you have this alarm, can you change it into an uplift? Yeah, you can change it into an uplift. That sometimes you need to take the alarm away because cognitive appraisal comes after. Cognitive appraisal comes after the alarm. So how do you turn the alarm into a challenge? But what is it? You got to use words that make science, not the way we look at it. Well, how do you change perspective? That's a mind thing. What's a behavioral method of changing perspective? Being conscious of your bias in the situation. And it's really hard because you can get really stuck, focused on one hyperbalance of focus. It's really hard to step out of yourself and look at it from a different side. Because once you get entrenched in alarm, the HPA cycle starts feeding into it, and that's where the whoosh comes from, is that the adrenaline causes the adrenaline causes the adrenaline. That's the medulla, usually it's classical conditioning. It's usually some sort of conditioning response, yeah. Yeah, it's worrying about worrying, yeah. And then, so what you do is it's thought spiraling, if you want to be. You want a negative vortex if you're a Shrek person. When he lifts his arms, you can see his leave it. Okay, sorry. But what happens is the same thing happens with depression. You start becoming depressed because you can't do something because you're depressed. Well, but by saying the way to break it is just. Yeah, I'm saying that because a lot of people will say, well, just get over it. Stop being depressed. And you're like, well, I can't, and therefore what's wrong with me? And yeah, so the way to cure it is you have to change the alarm into an uplift. Because anxiety is really good for you. Well, it is, because you get a lot done when you're stressed. Yeah. You can rock. You don't even need to sleep. You can just go. But the problem is that healthy? No. And so by changing the alarm into uplift, not everything that's an alarm should become an uplift. Don't try to be that annoying person finding the positive in every situation. Somebody dies. Well, at least they're not here. And it's like, just let me be miserable for a little while, please. Thank you. But you don't try to be that super positive, because if you're super, super positive, the world is ups and downs. And the world should be ups and downs. You should have alarm states. You should have uplift states. You should have crap days. You should have good days. Yeah.
How about those people that you have that always
Yeah, my family is wrought with negative nillies, worst case scenario thinkers. And the older members of the family suffer from heart problems because their alarm is going off constantly. My wife, my poor, wonderful, beautiful wife, has a very narrow panic trigger. So like when we're driving, if she was with us driving up, we would have gone home. We wouldn't have made it. Just by the 215 and the 60 merge on the 215, you got slow traffic and fast traffic. And then in the middle lane is cars stopped. So cars from here want to go across the stopped cars into the fast traffic. And cars from the fast traffic are trying to get through the stopped cars into the other lane. And it's 3 cars almost got hit while we were right there. One of them was us. And I'm not stressed by it. I'm like, whoa, here we go, challenge accepted. But I'm paying attention all around. And even though am I producing alarm? Yes, because I'm paying attention to everything around it. My heart's beating fast, because it's scary. Some lady came from the 3rd lane over, crossed 2 lanes into the stopped traffic. Jams on the brakes, starts sliding sideways. All lanes of traffic are busy zooming. I'm the annoying person that leaves a lot of space between myself and the car in front of them. Yeah, and so as soon as she was sliding sideways, I zoomed right up to the back of the truck that I was in front of, and she had enough room to stop about this. If I didn't move forward, she would have hit me. But how did I know she was coming? Ninja reflexes. No, I was paying attention. I heard the screech. I looked in my mirror and floored it forward. And so she stopped, and she kind of went straight. As I waited for the truck to move forward, another car pulled in front of that truck. This is right after the lady skidded to a halt, and then pulled out, and there's a big semi coming at full speed, and he's like, like a little. I think the truck's like didn't. Luckily, the truck didn't lock its brakes, because the truck squirreled a little bit, but didn't. Have you ever seen a trailer lock its brakes? Yeah, and I'm sitting right next to it for that to happen, which was not good. Anyway. So, and we get through that, and we're all like laughing. Oh, that was awesome! What would happen to my wife in that situation? She probably would be crying, because the stress of that would just completely overwhelm her. But that's just kind of a part of her personality. Remember, we all have different personalities, and my personality is I used to get so stressed out all the time, and then I had a roommate that died in college. And she killed herself because she got to be in anatomy. She wanted to be a nurse, and if you get to be in anatomy, what happens? You won't get into a good program. You'll get into a 2nd-tier program. And she wanted to go to San Diego State programs. You get a B, you're not getting in. So she took a bunch of pills. We found her the next morning, and she was dead. And it was like, after that, I'm like, wow. So I talked to a psychologist for about 6 months afterwards, and I learned. Challenge accepted. So crap happens. So what do? Well, you can't adapt. But you try to figure out a way to push through. And that's something that I kind of learned because I mean, I don't look at everything as a game, but so like when I write this down, it's like, all right, challenge accepted. Let's see if we get this to go. The hard part is where it says dinner right there. Tacos. It's Tuesday. Duh. Okay. Why tacos? They're awesome. No, we could have tacos every night, really, in our house. But what's easy? We got ground turkey and spices and salsa, and you throw it together, cook it for a while, and then dump stuff into crunchy things and eat it. Actually, we're having tostadas, not tacos, but it's still tostada Tuesday doesn't rhyme as well as Taco Tuesday. Okay. Just the shape of the tortilla you put it on. It's the only difference. But it's the idea of saying challenge accepted means that I can see the day. As soon as I write it down, though, what happens? I'm conscious of it, and it's not overwhelming. Yeah. So you have when you compartmenting, packing things in little boxes is really important because if you look at the whole thing as I have to do all of this, why is that overwhelming? It's exhausting. That's why it's one of the best ways to get over anxiety and just to start your journey of overcoming anxiety and depression is make your bed. Because you've done something. You checked one box throughout the day. And that's all that you do. It's okay. You've got one thing checked off. To me, when I have free time is when I have more trouble getting things done. But when things are super stressed, I get things done really, really well because I have things to do all the time. Okay, and yeah. So let's see. This is all well and good, but what's health? Doesn't matter. What is health? This is really fun talking with my friend Jen this weekend about this. Because she's nuts, but that's okay. What is health? A behavioral measure. You just rephrase what he just said. This doesn't really help. So what's a behavioral measure? Okay, so let's look at one really simple thing. Okay, it's not how much water you drink. Hydration. I just want to go a little bit on the cray-cray health side. So one of my friends a long time ago bought this case of water called oxygenated water. Okay? So what she did, she goes, yeah, I buy this, it's great. I went to a trade fair and I saw it and I did the test and it's like amazing. I go, what's the test? She goes, well, what I do is you just kind of lean forward, stretch your hamstrings. Oh, not good. Okay, so then she takes a sip of the oxygenated water. All right. What happened? I went down further, oxygenated water, hydrated my muscles immediately, and I can flex even better. I will take a phantom sip and do it again. Look at that, almost to the shins. Try not to round my back, it's really hard. Can't stay free. Okay, but does water have anything to do with it? No. So, but if she believes that this $5 a bottle oxygenated water makes a difference, yeah. What happens? It's increasing the probability that she's going to stretch. If you stretch, brace yourself, you get more flexible. We had one of my stupid years, every year I do a stupid challenge of some sort, and one of the years was I wanted to be able to do the splits. Yeah. So every day when I was back when I was coaching, I was 32, 31, I would stretch with the students. I would just when we do the warm-up stretches, I'd stretch out, and I got to the point where I didn't want to do like this kind, because that's for boys, it's not good for you. I wanted to do the kind where you just put both feet straight out that way, which isn't good for you either, but yeah, so how do you measure how far you can do the splits? Like when you just slide out that way and do it. It's really easy. Measure it. Measure it. We had one of the discus measuring tapes, and we saw how far I could make my feet go apart. All the athletes were doing it because it was stupid and fun. No, it doesn't really help anything whatsoever. And once I stopped doing it, what happened? They straightened back up again. Anyway, but it's an objective empirical measurement of flexibility if you measure the distance between the amount that you can move one joint. Like if I put both arms straight above my head, what do you notice about my left arm? Doesn't go straight. Oh well. Can I measure those angles? Yeah, that's what the trainer goes, put your arm above your head. No, straight. That's as far as it goes straight. Oh well. Don't hurt yourself. So how do I measure hydration? Okay, so it's not urine output that measures hydration, because urine output is affected by, well, if I drink a giant bucket of mint tea, guess what I'm going to do later? Pee a lot. Minty color too, it's pretty exciting. If you eat beets, red. Terrifying if you forgot you eat beets. Oh wait, I'm okay. Anyway, but the idea of hydration is it's I'm just going to say it because I want to get through. Balance. When you are hydrated, you pee about the same amount all the time. Yeah, well, no, you drink, even if you drink your gallon, you drink how fast are you going to drink that? Yeah, so I usually drink about a gallon of water a day. That's what I shoot for. And when I'm doing it regularly, I don't pee that much at all. Because my body's used to it. My cells absorb what they need, and they flush out what they don't, and might stay balanced. But if we're up skiing, I didn't drink enough water. We're high altitude, it's dry out, and it's hard to carry water with you where you're skiing, and you don't really want to stop, so you just dry out. I'll drink a gallon of water when I get home, but can you process a whole gallon at once? No, what happens is your body absorbs what it needs and then flushes the rest. So when you a good state of hydration balance means that your urine is very consistent across time. You look at the density of solutes and you look at consistency across time. That's the key for balance, for hydration balance. Jen was saying that most Americans are chronically dehydrated. How do you know that you're chronically dehydrated, Stinky? But you balance your urine over time. So even if you're chronically dehydrated, guess what? Your pee is the same color all the time. But your cells are less full. So you'd have to do hydrostatic weighing. There's a lot of scientific methods you can measure that. But what everybody should do is everybody should drink 8-ounce glasses of water a day. All at once? No. Drink a glass of water every 2 or 3 hours. There you go. Guess what happens when you drink coffee? It causes diuresis. It increases the amount of water you're putting out. You retain less. Anyway, so in order to be healthy, you have to have a balance. Diuresis, not diarrhea. Diuresis is the act. Diarrhea causes dehydration as well, but whatever. So what about your food? What's healthy food? A balanced diet. I just heard this last week, but there's something called a meta-analysis. A meta-analysis is where you look at all these individual studies and you collect all the data and do an analysis of all the data of lots of different experimental studies. It's really cool. And what they did is they looked at all these different diets that have been floating around, and the diet that seems to work best for humans for maintaining balance, not maintaining balance doesn't mean gaining or losing weight. It means staying the same. The diet that makes you stay the same, balanced, is basically a vegan keto diet. So all of your foods come from nuts, twigs, and berries with lots of fat and lots of bean protein. And it's like, is that normal to eat that way? It's really hard. However, but you can easily eat a happy, satisfying life, except, is it easy to get the right vitamins and nutrients being vegan? No, it takes significant amounts of effort. A bunch of the kids at my daughter's high school said, "We're being vegan, save the planet." And like one of their hair started falling out. It's like, protein, lady, get some protein in your system. I don't like protein, it's murder. I'm like, you can eat beans. I don't like beans. Just eat 2 avocados every day, you'll be fine. At least for your hair. Okay. Very shiny. I love avocados. Okay. So, but eating a balanced diet is really not necessarily being the super awesome, uber healthy vegan dude. I mean, I ate pork rinds on the ride home. Woohoo! Okay. Why eat pork rinds? They're salty, they're crunchy, they're fatty. They're actually less fatty than potato chips, which is kind of depressing, but that's not important. They are relatively disgusting, which is why, because Jen in the back seat is like vegan, super healthy girl, so I'm eating pork rinds in the front seat. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Yeah, ranch. No, I'm just kidding. The spicy lemon ones. Yeah. I have an inner Mexican inside that eats food. Anyway, I just call it food. It's not Mexican food anymore. But when you think about a balanced diet, for me, eating pork rinds is better than eating potato chips. Because I don't make insulin. I do, but not very well. If I eat pork rinds, does it spike my blood sugar? No, if I eat a potato chip, blood sugar spikes. So if my diet is different than somebody else's diet because my balance is different than somebody else's balance. So like while we're skiing, one of the kids, his mom packed a bunch of these. Mona Lisa makes these little dollar sandwiches. Have you seen these? Are like 2 slices of salami, a piece of provolone on a little piece of French roll or little Italian bread. It's down in Little Italy. It's called Mona Lisa's. They're highly. If you had them, yeah, they're like $1 each. Yeah, they're like so he had like a whole pile of those in his backpack. So he keeps pulling one out occasionally on the lift and eating. How many of those do you have in your backpack? And so I ate, while we were skiing, I ate 1 or 2 of those. And should I eat the bread? No, but while we're skiing, where's all that glucose going? Into the muscles. It's getting burnt, turned into heat. And so my blood sugar was perfectly fine the entire time skiing, even though I probably ate about 300, 400 grams of carbs that day. But I didn't have any side effects from it. If I'm sitting in the car all day eating carbs all day, what'll happen? Blood sugar will spike and then I'll have to pee every 5 minutes all the way home. So the idea of water and food, it's pretty easy to see. Why do people have a problem with food in our culture? Well, salt affects hydration and balanced food. But salt, I'm going to write this, sugar, fat, and salt activate the nucleus accumbens. What is the nucleus accumbens? The pleasure center of your brain. Sugar, fat, and salt trigger pleasure. So if you have to go out in the wild and find food, what kind of meat is going to taste good to you? Fatty meat is going to taste better than lean meat. If anybody's ever gone out and probably nobody here has eaten seal before, you have. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because where does the seal keep all of its fat? On the outside of its meat. Yeah. And you eat it, and you're like, it's like chalk. Yeah, bears have their fat on the outside. It's extremely lean. Bear grease, though, if you add it to, sorry, that's the fat of the bear. My Todd brought some, yeah. Mm-hmm. Goose grease. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? I'll just talk to them. Okay. I speak redneck. But if you eat something like a pig, or what part of the chicken do most people enjoy? It's the leg and the skin. People want the fried chicken wings. Super Bowl's coming up, chicken wing season. Because chicken wing is fat. What do you dump on it? Barbecue sauce, salt and fat. Ranch, salt and fat. Hot dogs, sugar, salt, fat. And so you keep adding, if you add these things to your food, they make whatever you're eating more pleasurable biologically. But through training, like I don't like a lot of very sweet things, but I still really like chocolate. I eat a little bit of chocolate every day. Well, it's theoretically good for you, but if I eat like a whole pound of chocolate every day, not balanced. But a little bit of chocolate's good for you. And so, but I like chocolate not because it's sweet or fatty. I like it because I've always liked chocolate. And itself has become a conditioned stimulus. Okay, that's why I wrote the stimulus over on the board. It's because it's a conditioned stimulus. So when I just eat chocolate, it causes pleasure because of its conditioned stimulus factor. My sister doesn't like chocolate. She got sick eating chocolate-covered strawberries, got like a funky strawberry, looks all good on the outside, take a bite, it's all squishy on the inside. Can't touch chocolate. Still is fine with strawberries. But that chocolate taste is what her brain said, that's it. That's what was gross. Not the rotten strawberry, but the chocolate taste. Yeah. No, I usually eat right now, what do I have right now? There's still some leftover fudge from Christmas, so I'll take a little chunk of that. So that's pretty damn sugary chocolate. We have those cocoa nibs from Trader Joe's. Yeah, they're just baker's chocolate chunks, and I'll munch on those. So those have 0 sugar, so it honestly doesn't matter. I'm just a chocolate slut. I'll take whatever's nearby. I'll eat that. Like an old frozen Hershey's Kiss that I find. I'm sorry, yeah. No, I just like it. I like the chocolate flavor. It makes me happy. I enjoy it, and it's you can try to rationalize, justify, project anything you want to make sure that I enjoy it. Yeah. The same thing as I like beer. I don't drink beer very much. It's too carby. Alcohol's not good for me, but I like beer. Yeah. Woo.
But it's like every night before you have like a chocolate. I eat chocolate but
What's in there?
This is protein shake.
Mixed with chocolate base. Okay, yeah. So the biggest problem with eating food at 8 o'clock at night is the best foods to eat after 8 o'clock are small amounts of protein. Because what happens, your body will absorb whatever it can throughout the night. And so my good friend who's a nutritionist forever, he says eat like a king, have lunch like the Duke, and have dinner like the Queen. And so you have a light, small dinner with low carb, mostly vegetables at night. You eat there's a lot of research that says it's not exactly true. He said most of your calories between breakfast and lunch. And then the rest of the day taper. And there's people that do intermittent fasting diet. One of my students years ago, Kevin, was super cray-cray into the intermittent fasting. He says, yeah, it sharpens mental focus, man, and all this stuff. And I'm like, does one thing fix everything? No, because the mind is too complex. We can't say one thing fixes everything. But no, seriously, dude, I tried it. It was awesome. Okay. But so I won't, unless I haven't eaten in a long time, I won't eat past 6 o'clock. I mean, like last night, my wife made lasagna because my daughter's getting ready for finals. She likes lasagna, so she's going to have it at lunch this week. So I'm scraping all the sauce off the noodles, and I have scraping all the sauce. So I have a little pile of sauce and a little pile of noodles on my plate. But I probably ate 200 calories for dinner last night. But I ate like a freaking pig all day eating pork rinds and sandwiches. So yeah. That's the key. We have some friends from Wisconsin that eat beef and cheese with every meal. Are they super fit and super healthy? Yeah, because they work out a lot and they eat the same foods all the time. And what has their body figured out? How to digest that and how to keep it balanced. So every single person has a different homeostasis, have a different balance. That's why when you go on, if you read somebody's book about their diet, it works for me, and they write a book and they sell it, and 1 million people buy it, and it works for 3 of those people who buy the book. And they say, oh, I use this diet, it works for me, and they post it on Instagram, and 1,000 more people try it, and it works for 50 of them. That's why the diets that are the most consistent are the ones that are the best for you. It doesn't, as long as you are meeting your nutritional balance needs, and most of the research says you got to stay away from animal fats, but I know lots of people who've eaten animal fats their entire lives and have no problem with anything because their bodies are used to it and their bodies can handle it. It's a mix of your genetics, and it's a mix of, there's too many variables for you to say, this can make you feel this way. There's too many things, especially because we haven't talked about mental stress yet. And this is all, we're just talking physical self, and not even mental self, because can your mental self ruin your stomach? Yes, I had an ulcer when I was working at the lab. Right here. It's like, what is that? You have an ulcer. But I'm 28. Why do I have an ulcer? Because you're working in a research lab. You don't like killing the rats. Oh, I don't like killing the rats. Yeah. Yeah. So they're ketotic. So they eat. If you're going to be properly full-on keto, you don't eat cheese either. But they're not. But they're just from Wisconsin and just have to have sausages and cheese with everything. That's like the side plate for everything. There's a plate of sausage and cheese. Why is that there? Oh, and I started eating it. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a big problem with the balance of trying. If you go into if you stick with the keto diet, and if you stick with it and stay on it, but if you stop, your body goes into a rebound. Like if I just cut my calories down to 1,000 a day, I can lose weight really fast. I can get down before March. I can get down to 220. But what'll happen as soon as I bring any extra calories in? I will gain it back plus a little bit more. Because your body's weight balance is a set point. And that's why a lot of people, after they have a baby, guess what happens to their body's set point? It changes, it goes up. And because of carrying the kid around, your body goes, oh geez, I need more calories. And then when you're done with the baby, what do? It's not that you keep eating. You could go back to eating the way you were before, but what does your body do? Stores the calories differently unless you change other variables as well. And that's like one of the best ways to maintain. I don't think the BMI scale is very good for balancing health. Body mass index scale, it's your height divided by your weight. It's some math involved. Something. And I've been obese pretty much my whole life according to the scale. And even when I was at my strongest and when I was my biggest in college, I was still grossly obese. I take off my shirt, people go, gross. I think that's what it means. And my friends go, at least you're not morbid. Thanks. But what does my body mass index tell me? It's my density. It's my volume of space that I take up in the environment. And sadly, for us big people, what happens? No, we're good when we're young. We can beat up people a lot. But what happens when we get older? Diabetes, hip problems, knee problems, ankle problems, because what are you doing your whole life? You're huffing that weight around. And so people like myself are not going to live as long as people like my son. My son is thin as a stinking little rail. And he's just like my father-in-law. My father-in-law even now, he's 6'3", he weighs about 195. And he goes, well, I need to lose a little bit of weight. Well, you know, fine. But it's like, for me, 195, that was 8th grade. 9th grade? 9th grade. And so I've been down in the 180s once or twice back when I used to ride my bike about 300 miles a week. And I was down in 185, 190. But what happened as soon as I started actually having responsibilities in my life? I went right back up to 235. When my daughter was born and I was super sucked into that whole taking care of the baby thing, I got up to about 250 because I wasn't exercising at all. And if I maintain my exercise level, what do I weigh? 235. After being a potato for the last couple months, 241 is what I weighed. So it's like, my set point's 235. My set point's staying right at the obesity level. If I get down to 220, I get to be overweight. But I can't stay there unless I drastically change my diet. Yeah. So the fun thing about this is that, can I just make a rule and a plan for your physical health? Is it going to be the same for everybody? No, that's the key thing, is that every diet is different for everybody. How do you know your diet is functional for you? When it's balanced. When you stay balanced. If you're losing weight rapidly, it's not necessarily good for you. If you want to lose weight, all you have to cut out 500 calories a day that you're typically eating. And how much weight will you lose? About a pound a week. And how many weeks should you do this in a row? What's actually kind of funny is don't cut out 500 more every single day. Have people do that. So if you cut down 500 calories, you will lose weight, and then you get to a point where you stop losing weight. Well, guess what? That's where your body is a good set point to be. And then just keep that calorie and keep that same weight. And like we had one of the girls that was working out at our gym, she was trying to get down to a certain weight. She was 6'2", 6'3", very big woman. But she wanted to lose weight because she wanted to have a second baby. And she did IVF, and they wouldn't give her the IVF unless she lost weight. She goes, well, I need to get down. I need to lose 40 pounds. I need to lose 40 pounds. And she was so hyper-focused on losing 40 pounds, what couldn't she do? She couldn't lose 40 pounds because when you're stressed, guess what happens? You don't actually eat. The cortisol makes you store more calories. And then so we kept trying to say, it's like, she didn't tell us about the IVF part at the beginning. She just said, I need to lose 40 pounds, I need to lose 40 pounds. Like, no, you need to learn to lift weights and enjoy lifting weights. Then the 40 pounds will fall off as soon as you enjoy working out. Yeah, so people that lose weight under stress are generally because they don't eat. People who gain weight are eating the same amount but are storing more calories. It increases insulin levels and makes you store more calories faster, so you get fatigued faster because you're storing less. What's the other? There's one other biometric process there. Guts. One thing I didn't mention up here. What happens when you get under stress? Well, either you poop a lot or you become extremely constipated, depending on how your bowels respond to stress, which sucks. Because if you get diarrhea a lot when you're stressed, what happens to your body weight? It goes down because you're actually losing a lot of water weight and digesting stuff. Yeah, without being too disgusting. People do cleanses, and that's where you eat every. The cucumber, watermelon? No.
I know someone who just did, she drank water for 2 days consistently.
Yeah. Well, if you need to fit into a particular dress or a suit for a particular wedding, just don't eat any salt at all and drink a bunch of water. You'll shrink up like a little prune.
So is that healthy?
No, you basically just. If your goal is to look good for this day, go for it. But looking good is a metaphor that our society puts out, not being healthy. So that's why people are like, well, why don't you try to lose a little bit of weight and try to get more ripped? I'm like, I don't care. My job is to go skiing all day and not be tired at the end of the day. That's my mental focus. But a lot of other people have the bathing suit goals, and it's like, that's a different. Is bathing suit goals healthy? It can be, but if you're we can actually talking about eating disorders, that if you start hypervigilating, means cognitively obsessing about, hypervigilating on the way that you look, you stop worrying about your healthy balance and you focus more on how you look. And the two are related to each other, but when you get down into that rabbit hole of so obsessed about how you look, and even if you feel like crap, but you look good, people say, oh, I'm good. That's not healthy because it's not balanced. That's why there's a big thing about the rise of Instagram models for things. Well, it's like people just pay these girls in bathing suits to hold stuff. Here, hold this. Or, well. It's like my son used the term booty shot the other day. I'm like, seriously? He goes, well, like, okay. But, and it's funny because whatever people see often, they assume is normal. Because the more you see it, the more normal it seems. And you look in the mirror and you're like, I'll get my eyebrow pencil and draw my six-pack on so I can get on Instagram. But it's you see this and go, wow, is that what normal is? And then you start comparing self to normal, and then it's hard. So that's why we don't have mirrors at our gym. There's no mirrors. Because what's our trainer's goal? To make you strong. Because the big motto in it is strength matters. And that's what's great, is that everybody who works out there, if they stick with it, you get strong eventually. And that's what Sarah was her name, the tall girl. It's so funny because in about 3 weeks of working out, she's swinging like the 50-pound kettlebell. And just like as she's going, and she's like, oh, I'm like, do you realize, like, just a few weeks ago, you couldn't do the 20-pound kettlebell? You've gone up like 30 pounds, which is a lot in a kettlebell. And she goes, yeah, but I haven't lost any weight. Because why was she there? To lose weight. And with weightlifting, you don't lose weight right away. Most of the time when you first start lifting weights, what do? You gain a lot of muscle and lactic acid, and you gain a lot of water weight when you first start lifting. And so people will step on the scale and they, oh no, I've gained 10 pounds. It's all water because of lactic acid. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So once you get to that set point, what did those people do in that show in order to get to that next level? They would work out ridiculously hard, like 3-4 times a day, and they were eating 1,000 calories a day, 500-600 calories a day, nutritionally balanced, but not enough calories. Most of the people who did The Biggest Losers have gained back the weight plus more. The ones that haven't, there was a study in Time about that show. The people that haven't, what do? They're motivational speakers and coaches. So what are they doing all day? Working out. And it takes, for me, I've been 235 since 2001 or so. 2000? I was about 220 up before that, but 2001 when I got this job, I went up to about 235. Back when I was teaching at the high school, I was coaching, so I was out in the track every day. I was working out every day. Now I work out 3 days a week, 4 days a week. So my body's at 235. And no matter what I do, I either drift up or drift down, but where do I always end up? 35. And I'm going to be 235 unless I do some drastic changing in my diet. I mean, 220 is a great weight for me. I'm super feisty and super fast on my bicycle, but it's hard to sustain that. That's what the problem with The Biggest Loser is. These people lost so much weight. I have 2 friends that did gastric bypasses. One of them has gained all of her weight back. Even though she can only eat a cup of food at a time, what has her body done? Who's figured out a way to adjust her metabolism so she's only eating small amounts of food, but she looks the same way she did before. The other one, Poppy, she has lost a bunch of weight, but her problem was eating ice cream. Yeah, she's wonderful. It's a wonderful substance. However, it's really, really high in sugar and fat. Very, very bad for you. And so if ice cream were to go to the FDA, they would not approve it for sale because it's so bad for you. But when do you typically eat ice cream? Is it for breakfast food or after dinner food? It's after dinner food, which is even worse time to eat ice cream. And so what she learned is that if you try to eat ice cream after having a gastric bypass, guess what happens? You barf, or you get this horrible sick rush feeling with all the sugar and lactose hits your intestines, and you get massive diarrhea, and the reward value of ice cream went down significantly for her. So her weight was generally caused by her behavior, not by her physiology. Jan, the person who gained the weight back, her weight was probably caused more by her physiology. Why don't you take a break for a minute? Write your question down. Write it down. Take a break, so more people are going to be on the ship here. I'm gonna record this part because that's a really good question. Okay, so this is a question. We did this experiment. All right. Okay, so we did this experiment last year, and this is part of one of the things that I want to focus on in our little research lab after we get done playing with Fortnite on the brain scanner. But one of the things is that when you say, we asked my introduction to psych students 2 semesters ago, what does it mean to eat healthy? And we gave them a bunch of choices of what they thought eating healthy was. And it's funny, but the word healthy should mean what? Yeah. So we showed different pictures of plates. So we made different plates of food, okay? So go like here. Let's go food. See what we get on the food picture here. Okay, trip to La Mesa. Oh, there's our chickens. That's sad that came up with food. Okay, so there's a trip to Mammoth Lakes. That's sweet. So there's a food. I made a folder of food for this. So this is taco night at Weinert Family House at some point in our past. And so that would be a food, Northgate tortillas. Okay, and that's ceviche or ceviche or whatever you say it in Spanish. Whatever. Ground up fish stuff. I love it. So here's food. Oh, sorry. Okay, that'll come back on in a second. But so I'll put this back up in just a second. But what does it mean to have balanced food? Yeah, you will have to make sure you have the right ratios of nutrients. Make sure you don't. For me, I try to limit my carbs as much as possible. I try to have at least right around 100 grams of carbs per day. And I try to get my carbs from stupid things. I get them from cheese. I try not to eat breads and things. I did really well this morning. I only had 16 grams of carbs this morning. A piece of Ezekiel toast. This is spaghetti for me. That's spaghetti sauce on broccoli. That's why. So this is a good breakfast. Okay, for us, it's got a little bit of cheese in there. There's some leftover chicken. There's some chopped up broccoli, and looks like peppers of some sort. Something we cook for dinner and just cook with eggs in the morning. So this, my wife and I will eat that for breakfast. There is a relatively well balanced plate of food. We got it's a couscous. It's a mix of all sorts of different stuff. So it's got chicken, broccoli, and then that's got couscous. It's got quinoa. It's got the little bits of pasta in it, which I don't eat much of that. This is one of our favorites. I really want to make this tonight, not tacos, but this is tomatoes, fresh mozzarella cheese. This is that's basil, and then you put it on ground. You shred turkey and you shred zucchini, and you mix that together, and that's food. And it's people say, "Well, eating healthy is gross," because what do people think of when they think of eating healthy? Well, I love salads. Say it louder. Yeah, like someone eating just a bucket of vegetables. This was one of my favorite things to eat for breakfast before I found out that I was partially diabetic, is you have unsweetened almond milk and you pour it into a cup with sunflower seeds, oats, and those are dried dates or dried fruit. You just fill that up with a cup and just pour the almond milk in it and put it in the fridge. And then when you get up in the morning, you take it out and eat it cold. Good. Okay? And so it's a nice, real balanced food. This is one. That's fennel. And so is this gross? Terrible. So that one's asparagus. We had a lot of fennel that week. So that's asparagus, fennel, and shrimp. And this is how we fry chicken. It's not really fried. Baked. It's coated with these things called nut crumbs, which are one of our. This is the nut crumbs. So yeah, chunk of salmon with the nut crumbs on it. Put it in the barbecue, and when you cook it, the nut crumbs kind of crunch up. The oils kind of spread out from the nuts, and it gives it. Salmon's really oily anyway, and it's super tasty. But versus if you're from any, this is all a Swedish candy. Yeah. And it's like, we were at a friend's house, and we have a friend that's from Finland, and so I took a picture of this and sent it to her because I'm like, look, some of this stuff is really nasty. It's really good nasty. Like these are, I can't point at that one, is filled, this right here is filled with pepper. Yeah, so like black pepper, like Turkish pepper, and it's like, so it's licorice and salty, and then right at the end you get this a pepper in your mouth. This was the other night. Of course, it's good. It's food. Okay, and so at the Weiner family house, we try to eat very healthy because I don't Instagram my food unless I'm eating something really disgusting. Then I'll Instagram it. But it's squash. Yeah, so it's whatever. We used to get a CSA box, Community Support Agriculture box, but then the Susie's Farms went out of business. It was very sad. Well, it just wasn't sustainable. Paying people a living wage, trying to maintain it work, they couldn't make any money, or they couldn't maintain the thing. So when Susie's Farms, we kind of stopped our CSA box, but we just get a box of local grown vegetables that were there. And what do you have to do though? Figure out how to cook them so they don't taste nasty. Because if you cook stuff wrong, guess what? Nasty. Just overcook a chicken breast sometime. Yeah. Okay, where's the sauce? I need barbecue sauce. But if you cook it right, it's juicy and it's wonderful, and we try not to buy the saline injected chicken breasts because what they do is they pump them full of salt so that when you cook them, they don't shrivel up. Yeah. Anyway, so people think that healthy food is gross. But what is healthy food really? It's hard. Eating healthy is hard. We spend way too much money on the Weiner family diet. I mean, it's ridiculous how much money we spend on food because what are we always buying? We're not always buying organic stuff. Fresh food, real food that looks like food. We do not, very rarely we will buy processed food. And if we do get processed food, it's generally just we throw it to children. And like, my wife and I won't eat it. We'll eat something that we make ourselves. And so the problem with healthy is people see it as being hard to eat healthy. You have to prep it and you have to cook it. You have to massage your kale. Otherwise, if you just eat kale without massaging it, guess what? A, it's really bitter. B, you don't get any nutrients out of it. You don't break down the cell walls by chewing on it. You have to break it down with some sort of chemical. We use lemon juice. But if you grind it up in the juicy machine, you also get the nutrients out of it too. You don't, most kale, you can't digest it. So if you just eat like a big kale salad that doesn't really have, it's just the kale in a salad, it's good roughage, but kale chips, what are you doing? You break down the cell walls by cooking it. And so juicing, when you grind things up, that breaks down the cell walls. You get way more nutrients by juicing. When I was working out a lot, somebody comes up to me and goes, "Hey, do you juice?" And back in my day, that meant steroids. I'm like, "Well, yes." And I'm like, "Juice? What do you mean, steroids?" And they're like, "No, like juice. Juicer? I mean, Jack LaLanne? That guy?" And yeah. Anyway, so he was a big guy selling juice machines forever. So, but being healthy doesn't require a lot of effort. Yes. Oh no. Why don't people like putting in effort? Okay, so as soon as you put laziness in there, okay, as soon as you say lazy, what we call that is called the fundamental attribution error. When you see somebody doing something, you assume their attributes, so what kind of person they are, right? And you put out attributes for people to see. We've talked about this already, and it's called a role. You assume that people sitting at fundamental attribution. Attribution is another word for attribution? Error, yeah. That's an E. That's an O. Why would you say E? Error. You know, I'm going to write it slower with my left hand. Okay. I got it. And I can't spell fundamental now. Okay, fundamental, which means, shut up. Okay. Fundamental, which means what? The first thing that happens. The fundamental is a basic. Attribution means cause or traits. And error means wrong. So when you say people don't eat healthy because they're lazy, okay, that people say that all the time. It's a very common thing to say because you think, oh, that person doesn't work out, they're lazy. You say that, but do you know the truth behind that? Do I have time to cook a super healthy dinner today? No. Is it because I'm lazy? No. Well, I'm busy. I don't have a lot of time, but we can still cook some. So we have a Rolodex of recipes that we have. It's actually a Rolodex, but it's actually a folder of recipes. And what we have is, so on Sunday, on Saturday and Sunday, what we sit down and we make a plan for the week. What's happening on Monday, what's happening on Tuesday, what's happening on Wednesday, with Thursday. We look at our calendar for the week and we figure out what days we're having what on which days, and we shop on the weekends so that we have food for each of those things. And by the time I get to Wednesday and Thursday, I often forget what I have on the list, even though it's posted on the fridge, and I'll make something stupid because I'm tired of carrying on stuff on the list. But, and Friday we'll either go out or barbecued meat and have kale salad. That's our standard Friday food. But when you say someone's lazy, is that a stereotype or is that a real thing? Stereotype. It's a stereotype. Because do you see lazy people eating fast food? Yeah. Yes. So therefore, everyone who eats fast food must be lazy. See how that works? But do you see lazy people eating healthy food? Probably. Do you notice and pay attention to that? No, it doesn't fit your schema. Yeah. It doesn't fit your schema. So when you see the Weinert family standing at Taco Bell, you go, wow, those people are so lazy. Because we're standing at Taco Bell. And so what's interesting is that when you make this, the perceived effort is really the trick here. How come some people it looks easy for them? They are putting effort when you're not seeing it. Like LeBron James looks like when he plays basketball, it looks easy. Look, Kevin Durant, we were watching a game a couple weeks ago. And it's just crazy, that guy. He just head fake, all of a sudden he's through and he lays it up. It's like, how can you do that? It looks so easy. Well, how does he do that? Why does it look so easy? He works his butt off all the time. Do we see him working his butt off all the time? No. And I always laugh at the people that work out, that show themselves working out all the time. But then when you actually are there in the gym while they're working out, what are they doing? They're taking pictures of themselves working out, not actually working out really hard. Like when I got 200 on the clean, Shannara goes, ooh, did you video it? No, I'm not gonna video myself picking weights up. Because if I video it, I'll fall down, and that'll get on Instagram somehow. Anyway, but and he goes, well, if you didn't, no one saw it, doesn't count. Well, I mean, he's being sarcastic, of course, but if it doesn't, so if nobody sees it, it doesn't count. Yeah, well, yeah. People, if you walk around Lake Murray, there's a sign. If you don't touch the sign, it doesn't count. I refuse to touch the sign. Yeah. I also refuse to touch the thing on the top of Cowles Mountain. Well, yes, that actually has crossed my mind multiple times. No, the fact that, so if you don't touch the thing, it doesn't count. Like, oh, well, I didn't hike up the mountain. Okay? No, it's like, why, do I want to keep score? Do I want to keep track of all the awesomeness I've done? Well, I know that I just hiked up the mountain. So therefore, it counts. The first time we ever went up there, we touched the mountain. Like, yeah, I've done it. Okay, once you did that, my favorite way to go is on my bike on the backside to go all the way up to the top and then all the way back down without actually touching the mountain with my body. That's right, staying on the bike the whole time. Not as easy as you think. It's a steep hill. But the idea is that when you finish, I don't post on Instagram. I go, that's it. Because who's keeping score? You. And so that's when we start talking about this. Mental health. What is mental health? It's balance. So mental health is balance. I don't like when people talk about the mentally ill. Because what does it mean to be mentally ill? Well, people use the word bad when they're mentally ill. Well, being hungry is a chemical imbalance. So the chemical imbalance is too vague. But some people's disorders are caused by chemistry. And people that have chemistry-caused disorders, like Just Tom. Did I play the Tourette's Hero clip for you? Biscuit. Happy birthday, Hedgehog. But she has, her Tourette's is caused by dopamine receptors in her basal ganglia. So her disorder is caused by chemical problems. The dopamine receptors are too sensitive in that part of her brain, or no, not sensitive enough in that part of her brain, sorry. And because they're not sensitive enough, she can't control those repetitive tics. So if she were to take medicine, could she control them? Kind of, but the side effect of taking the medicine to control the tics is psychosis. You start becoming psychotic. You start seeing things and hearing things that aren't really there. You start losing touch with reality. Yeah, and that's did anybody watch an old movie called Awakenings? Is where people with Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease has similar things to Tourette's, except it's in a different part of the brain. Parkinson's is the lower part of the brain, and it causes your body to stop moving. So all you're left with are rigid tremors, which sucks because it's funny but mean at the same time. Pete, one of the guys I work out with, his grandpa had Parkinson's in his later years, and his grandpa would be standing in the kitchen, and he goes, "Uh-oh, here we go, I'm going," and just slowly start tipping over. But it was long enough that he had consciousness to go, "Oh crap," and so he wore one of those little kid leash harnesses at the SeaWorld leash harness that you have the kids who didn't go swimming. Yeah. So he had this shoulders like a backpack with just a handle on the back. And then so whenever he go, uh-oh, here we go. The caregiver's welcome. Straighten back up. Thank you. How come he couldn't just go? It's the motor program, the motor movement gets stuck. And the only thing that happens is you get rigid. So wait, if your arms are rigid, what part hits first? Your face. So you see a lot of people with Parkinson's with bruises on their faces because they can't catch themselves. It's really it's harsh, but it's just funny because his cognitive ability was great, and it got to the point where it started affecting his jaw and he couldn't talk. Because the motor programs couldn't get out. And then it's weird. As soon as he stopped being able to talk, what happened to the rest of his mental health? Why? It's your thoughts need some sort of outlet, some sort of feedback in order to maintain. And he was 90-something, so he lived a very wonderful life. But so mental health is a balance of everything. And we all go through periods of time of being healthy and unhealthy mentally. Like this time of year right now for us with my daughter's stupid finals week, it's a very unhealthily, mentally unhealthy time. That's the right way to say it. Because she's stressed. She's a lot to do. I have to leave right at 11:30 on tomorrow and Thursday because, Thursday I've got it covered, but tomorrow because she gets out of school right at noon. And she's going to be exhausted after taking AP World and Bio the same day. Good idea. Yeah, it's rough. And so I'm going to go pick her up. She's going to go home and she's going to go to sleep. And then she's got, what is she doing? Oh, she has volleyball practice that night. So why is she going to go sleep? To recover. So she can get some time to recover. And then after volleyball, why is she going to go to volleyball? No. She's a pansy. No. Because it's balance. You need to balance. You can't, if you dedicate everything to one thing, it's not balanced. So she's going to go play volleyball. She's going to go out and be social and be with her friends and crush balls and hit people. And that always makes you feel better. Okay. So, but the problem with mental health is how do you measure it? By assessing behavior. And so that becomes tricky because how do you know if the person's playing a role or is actually unbalanced? What do you mean by playing a role? So if you fake it long enough, does it become real? Yeah. So so faking it means. But they still do. Go ahead. Yeah, so it's basically people play the role. This was, I heard this story back when I was in graduate school. We took a class in what's called stigma. Called stigma. It's a social psych class called stigma. Turns out that there are sets of roles that people have that have negative connotations to them. Okay, and so once you are labeled as a particular type, a whole host of negative things get attached to you. Like really bad negative things, not just like a stereotype, but things that almost immediately cause discrimination. It's called stigma. Okay, so a stigma, think of the stigma and schema as the same thing, because you said stigma, right? Yeah, okay, so stigma and schema are very similar, except stigma is severely negative. So a bunch of graduate students went to, this is up in UC Berkeley, because when you go to Berkeley, you're kind of full of yourself. You really think that you're awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. Because to get in there, you have to be awesome. And so they teach you that you're awesome. And so you're kind of full of yourself. With rounds that you can back it up, so it's not too bad. So a bunch of the graduate students in the psychiatry department said, hey, let's go to San Francisco and go to the hospital and all say that we're hearing voices. They all demonstrated symptoms of schizophrenia. What they were doing together as a group, trying to see what the inpatient facility was, what the processing was like for schizophrenics, because they were working in the hospitals in Berkeley and wanted to find out what is it like for these schizophrenics to go through the system. So what do? They pretended to be schizophrenic. Well, it seemed like a really good idea at the time, but what happened was one of them kind of caved at the beginning and couldn't do it. And so the doctor saw right through their trying to fake him and kicked him out. The other two or three, I forget how many were in the group, were put in, and they kept journals about what they were experiencing, and in the person's chart was obsessive writing behavior. Because a lot of schizophrenics will have will write down tons and tons of stuff. And if you try to read it, it looks like gibberish. Because it's just a bunch of words strung together, and they're diligently writing for hours. It's called a word salad. They're writing their thoughts down, but their thoughts come out in a just disorganized mess. And to them, it makes sense as they're writing it, but it doesn't make sense to someone else. So the graduate students are writing all this stuff down, and the doctor said, oh, they're doing this obsessive word repetitive writing behavior. And then after about 2 or 3 days in the hospital, under observation, they said, okay, we're not really, we're just playing, we're graduate students, you know. And then they started, delusions that they're graduate students.
Wow.
Because as soon as they got viewed under that lens of mental illness, what happened? The doctors were seeing them as their behavior as mental illness. Because I guarantee everybody who goes to prison goes, I didn't do it, man. It's not me. Someone else. It wasn't my stuff. It was someone else's. I was holding it for them. Yeah. Because most patients want to get out and are saying, I don't want to be here anymore. This is just a trick. It's a joke. So finally, the one that got out didn't hear from their friends in about 2 or 3 days, and finally went looking for them with one of the professors from their college and said, hey, yeah, they're actually members of the thing. One of them had actually already been medicated, though. Yeah, why oh shit? Well, that and the medicine causes significant side effects. Sometimes permanent side effects. The guys did not suffer from any permanent side effects, but they can cause problems with motor movements and called tardive dyskinesia. Does the person you're working with, cerebral palsy, does he take Haldol stuff? Okay, because a lot of times with cerebral palsy, they get very strange mutations, so they give them a drug called Haldol, which quiets your inner voice. Problem is it causes movements, and it's not a tick, it's a slow tick. As opposed to a biscuit, happy birthday. Oh, that's a fast tick. It causes a slow movement of that. So you would say happy birthday, but it would come out really slow. So when you hear someone talking like that, with that, it sounds like they're drunk. They're not really drunk, it's just that their mouth is making the wrong movements for the sounds that are coming out. So it's really, even the doctors that treat schizophrenia and severe mental disorders, do they see it with a stigma? Yeah, because in their perspective, they're seeing people who are mentally ill, and they're trying to bring them back to balance. What's a better way to think about mental illness? So what makes us mentally healthy? It's not a disability. Let me put this in a nice purple color. Almost. The number one cure for mental health, or not for mental health, to be mentally healthy, let's cure mental health, is social support. The number one thing that helps us with mental health is social support. Other people. This is really irritating because the way that we survive best is by having other people. The way we survive best is having other people. Now, do those people have to be close to you or right there with you right now? No. What does social support mean? What does it do for you? Well, yeah, so the ability, you're getting there. I'm not going to say reinforcement. I'm just going to write a much simpler word. Help. So on Thursday, it gets even crazier. Okay? On Thursday is a really busy day. So I've got meetings until 2, and then my daughter has to be picked up at noon. But I've got meetings until 2, but she has to be picked up at noon. What do we have? Grandpa. So the fact that we have Grandpa that can pick up the kids, does that help us with our problems? Yes, because I can go to the stuff that I'm supposed to go to. And then Thursday night, My son had a basketball practice, but my father-in-law is happy to take him to basketball practice because he loves going to basketball practice. He played basketball in high school. And so, back in the 50s at Crawford. So, but the fact that Grandpa's there to help, what does it do for the stress of our day? It relieves that part of the stress of the day. It helps bring a little bit of balance back. Like when we drove up in the mountains, he said, hey, just let me know what's going on. We have the app on our phone. My wife's up at school. I don't want a gift card. Thank you, though. Oh, I clicked on it. Darn it. Okay. So I'm at Cuyamaca. My son's at Pershing. Yep, he's still there. My daughter's at Patrick Henry. That's good. And my wife's up at her school in Alpine. So what does that have to do with anything? Why have that stupid app on my phone? No, that's a sinister way of looking at it, but yes. It just lets me know. It's like if I need to go pick up my daughter was babysitting for somebody. And so they went to go swimming. So I just opened up the app. Oh, they're at the lake. Close the app, and I know where they are. Does that relieve the stress of not knowing where they are? Yeah. My daughter calls it very stalkerish when I show up at the lake. Hey, brought you a lunch. You're stalking me again, aren't you? No, I'm your dad. I'm supposed to. Okay? But the social support is so important because it helps take one less thing off your plate. If you take one less thing off your plate, what happens to your resistance to new stressors? You get better resistance to new stressors. So the more you work out, does that help you have resistance to new stressors? Yeah, because your body responds better to stress, so you can recover faster. There's so much that's the trying to understand mental health because it's not a good science. It's not a good biometric. You can't just weigh stuff and measure things for mental health because is there a meter stick? What's the only way to compare yourself? Other people. So you become very reflective in a problem with other people. So do other people cause mental problems or help? Or both? Both. Both. So again, the idea is what happens if you have a stigma associated with the mental health? You get less support because what do your friends do? Well, so if you have a friend that suffers or you suffer from anxiety, your friends don't want to hang around you because you're irritating. If you're worried about stuff all the time and you're telling your friends you're worried about stuff all the time, like, dude, you need to chill out. If I could do that, I wouldn't be telling you how stressed I am. So the people say, well, what's wrong with you? And as soon as they add that stigma, what happens to the social support? Goes down. Everybody, when they found they hurt your knee, calls you and says how you're doing. Okay? You have a nervous breakdown. You have a panic attack in traffic and go to the hospital. What are your friends, one friend maybe, will call and ask you how you're doing. Like, ooh, walk away from that one. Someone's depressed. When do you get depressed after having a baby? For people, postpartum, right? How long after the baby? It can last even longer than that for some people. It causes clinical depression to some people. But most women after 3 weeks feel really crappy after having a baby. The combination of sleep deprived, and when do most of your friends show up to help you out? Well, in our hood, it's you get 2-3 weeks of meals provided by your neighbors, and then you're on your own. So by that time that third week rolls around, people are kind of tired of you having a new baby and not coming around as much anymore. Get away from me and my baby. Okay, I like it. But did you have someone to help? Get up, help that. Okay, well that's fine. It was there at least. So that the idea of this having something else around helps bring you back into that idea of balance. But when you have something that's mentally wrong, people ask, what's wrong with you? They don't try to help. How do you help someone? Oh, that's next. We're doing that tomorrow. Okay, so you can't help anybody today. So what causes mental health balance problems? So we're going to look at this from the different schools of psych. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to look at it from the different schools of psych. Okay, so I have the brain drawn back there. Yeah. I'm going to write causes of mental illness up here. Okay, so can it be brain problems? Yeah. So the physiological school, we call the medical model. This is where your psychiatrists work. What do they assume is the cause of your stress? Which you said right off the bat, chemical imbalance. Something's wrong with your brain. How do we know something's wrong with your brain? Because we're using a medical model. The medical model says the cause of the brain is physiological. I didn't say that right. The cause of your illness is physiological. What's the treatment options if you use the medical model? Drugs. Okay? Change the brain. Change the brain, change the mind. One of my colleagues that has a shirt that says, to know brain is to know mind. I disagree. To know mind is to know brain, but that's not important. Okay, so, but she is focusing on the medical model. The brain comes first. Good or bad? Okay, so, well, are drugs healthy? Okay, what about insulin? So drugs, if I give insulin shot to any of you, it can cause a seizure if you're not diabetic. If you're diabetic, you look at me and go, thanks, I'll go eat a donut and be happy now. One of my friend's dads was diabetic, and the dad was eating tons of carbs. And she goes, why are you eating tons of carbs? He goes, well, if I don't eat enough carbs, I don't have to take I can't take my insulin. So she goes, well, why don't you just eat more vegetables and less carbs? He goes, well, then I won't have to take my insulin. Well, but the doctors were telling him that he needs to eat this amount of food and take this amount of insulin, because they weren't expecting him to change his diet. So he just changed his diet, and his pancreas started making insulin again. He's like me, type 2 plus diabetes. And now he makes insulin again. The doctor's like, well, you need to eat more carbs because you don't need any insulin. Like, yeah, and then so finally the doctor's like, they shifted doctors. They said, you know what, we're going to go to a different doctor because you're not getting it. Because the doctor is under one perspective of looking at this, that you need to take insulin to balance your blood sugar to make sure that you're healthy, versus become healthy, don't need the insulin, and be healthy. Different perspective. Okay, so there's the cognitive model. So the cognitive model is what's cause of mental illness. Yeah. The cause of the illness is your thoughts. Can you change your thoughts? Yes. Once you become aware of your thoughts, you can change your thoughts. You can say, this is going to suck, versus challenge accepted. And as soon as you change your thoughts, it's a subtle little brain change, but on the board back there, I wrote the left prefrontal cortex, L, PFC, and the R, PFC. We talked about this a little bit. So the left side of your brain, what does it tell you to do? To go, to do it. Do it, do it. The right side of your brain tells you to stop. When you have a harm loss appraisal, that is a focus on the right hemisphere. This is not going to end well. But the left hemisphere is saying, yeah, challenge accepted. Now, when you make a decision, the corpus callosum connects the two, and you're spinning both at the same time, weighing pros and cons. It's called logical thought. What if you just do whatever you think? Impulse control issues. That means your left hemisphere is just in charge, and your right hemisphere is going, whatever. Yes, sir. Okay. One more and you're out. Challenge accepted. Okay, so the idea of the cognitive model is it puts much more onus onto the person themselves. right? Much more onus on the person themselves. But in some cases where it is a medical issue, can you control your thoughts? No, specifically like schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a disorder of your thoughts, and it causes thoughts. And the disorder, it has a lot to do with the way your hippocampus is wired together. When you think, it doesn't come out as your voice, it comes out as somebody else's. And it's not that you have a split personality, it means that you hear a voice. That voice you hear are thoughts. So like you get the little wave of panic occasionally. If you're a schizophrenic, that wave of panic would say, watch out, that person has a knife, or they're trying to kill you, they're trying to poison you. Well, so that you all have voice in your head. And some of you have more than one voice because you speak more than one language. and you can like, oh crap, I've got voices in my head. But everybody has voices in their head. That's called your thoughts. But some people actually get auditory sensations as they're thinking. It sounds like somebody's talking and you look and there's nobody there. So your brain goes, well, I can't see them, they're hiding. Sad thing is with schizophrenia, when the dopamine receptors get activated too much, you also start getting paranoid. It's the same thing with withdrawals from amphetamine. The person starts becoming paranoid. And so if you hear a voice, you can't see them, and you're feeling scared and anxious, therefore that person is hiding from you, and that person's hiding from you because they're doing something bad and they're out to get you. And you can fill in the delusion as you go. But the cognitive model would say it's a disorder of the thought process. The medical model would say it's a disorder of the hippocampus. But where is the actual disorder? Depending on your perspective. We also look at this one. The behavioral school of psychology. So the behavioral school of psychology says the mental illness is caused by your behavior. Attitude would be a little bit more cognitive. Okay? The behavioral school of psychology says it's if you do something and it's rewarding, you're more likely to do it again. If you do something and you're punished, what happens? You avoid that behavior. Well, depending on the reward value. Yeah, it becomes a punishment. Well, by punishment, by definition, it decreases the probability of behavior. So, what's interesting is that, so you could look at something like anxiety. How could you reinforce anxiety? Why would anxiety be reinforcing? Yeah. So when my daughter was really sick, she goes, "You need to take her to the hospital. You need to go to the doctor right now. Cancel class. Go to the doctor right now." And so I called her first thing in the morning. Couldn't get an appointment till right after school. Like, okay, we're going to go to the doctor. Oh, I did cancel class that day when my daughter was sick. That's right. No, that was during last semester. Yeah. And so we went, and so it was right before finals. And so we went to the doctor, everything. But she was right. So she had mono. So I'm like, whatever, just give her some saltwater gargle and suck it up. But, so my wife's hypervigilance is actually good for her job, too. Because she's a principal. And she doesn't have a phantom pooper at her school, but one of the other schools up in Alpine had a phantom pooper. That's when someone purposely poops somewhere other than the toilet. It's called encoparesis, actually. It's a form of psychiatric disorder. Anyway, so one of the other schools had a phantom pooper. They found it, but not the person. But still at large. There is a phantom pooper. My buddy Jim goes, "Oh, I want to be the phantom pooper." Like, go away, Jim. But in that particular case, so if you're anxious about something and you're vigilant and you're successful, guess what? You're reinforced for being anxious, and your anxiety actually gets better. So what's the opposite of that? What if you're constantly punished? Now, panic attacks, you get... Well, yeah, you actually can't... Panic attacks can increase because of the anticipation of punishment. But depression. So behavioral schools depression look at the person's reward contingencies. You can actually instigate depression-like symptoms in animals, especially in rats, by leaving them out in the open. I know. You take a rat and you put it in a clear plexiglass cage in a large room and let it sit in the middle of the large room in the clear plexiglass cage. For a rat, that is terrifying because when you're a rat, what's your primary food or predator? Bird or cat. And if you're out in the open, both of them like to pounce. And so you see the rat will just kind of slowly walk in these panic-looking circles while they're in there. I would never do this research because it's mean. But then they look at the rat's brains and they show symptoms of depression, where the rat is learned to be helpless, to learn helplessness. And again, behavioral modification. It's simple. How do you teach someone to be not depressed? Give them things to accomplish, give them things to do. And you actually use behavioral therapy, rewarding them for their behavior. And they start doing more because they're rewarded. Yeah.
So from the behavioral standpoint, is it for depression? Is it reinforcing?
So one of the ways of talking about depression is from a behavioral perspective. I'm not saying it's not the right way of talking about it because you got to remember we have to add all these together. Behavioral perspective is that the person is not being reinforced. So therefore, what do? Nothing, because there's no reinforcement. And so we have to, as a medical model, we say, oh, well, the connection between the left prefrontal cortex and the nucleus accumbens is not there. We have to stimulate the left prefrontal cortex by increasing serotonin so we can gain the reinforcement connections back with the nucleus accumbens. Sounds cool when you say it, physio waves. Thought process model would say we have to change that person's thinking so that they can think that they're a better person than they actually are. Behavioral schools, we have to find a way to reinforce them so that they're increasing behavior. So there's, believe it or not, most people do all three. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy, and you throw some Prozac at them. Well, because if you get their brain working a little bit more, then you teach them how to think, and then you behaviorally teach them how to think, guess what? Then the person learns how to get better. You can't cure someone of depression, you teach them how to deal with their depression. That's like one of my students, it was really funny, super cool guy, reminds you actually a lot of you, reading a lot of stuff. This guy really liked Jung and philosophy, and he was a musician. I can't remember his name, but anyway, last semester. He had a really bad anxiety. He goes, I really still suffer from anxiety. I go, yeah, but you're doing just fine in class. He goes, oh, I know how to manage it. And so it's like he suffers a lot, but he figures he's learned how to tell parts of himself to shut up so he can do other things. And periods of time he does suffer from anxiety, but most of the time he actually does fine because just during the final, you can see him sitting there. It's like, okay, stop, go walk outside, go stand in the sunlight. But that's the social support aspect of this. Because I can see that he's starting to look panicked. Super intelligent, but as soon as you start panicking, what happens to your thought? It's gone. You go into that bonk phase and you run out of ATP and you have to go outside. Going outside, I said, go look at the mountains, look at the trees, and just zen. Then he came back and he goes, thank you. He sits back down and he gets back into his task. Because do you realize that you're hypervigilating as you're doing it? No, sometimes you don't. You don't realize that you're ramping up. And you can easily tell. I can tell when I'm clenching my jaw. That's one of my little behavioral things. When I'm stressed, I clench my jaw. Yeah, and if you become conscious of it, you go, hey, sympathetic nervous system, quit it. And you can, as soon as you start to feel it start, you go, okay. And my son, it's really funny because he'll go when he's really upset at something because he's like trying to like pretend doing the same little breathing that I do when I start getting stressed. He like imitates it in an angry sort of way, which is entertaining. Okay, when I was little, he goes, Dad, you're making your mad face. So I'm sitting at the computer working on something. Dad, you're making a mad face. Sorry, because why am I mad looking at the computer? I'm stressed about something. So it's a mad face. It's great. Okay, I was expecting one there, but you didn't get it. Okay, so are there other ways of looking at this? Cause of mental illness. Yeah. So the psychodynamic, I'm going to put that under here. Because when you said family history, I was thinking childhood, but then I just realized it could also be genetics. Are a lot of psychiatric disorders genetic? Yes. In fact, most of them have some sort of genetic components. It's hard to fizzle out the genetics versus the actual real causes because not everybody with a family history of anxiety gets anxiety. So, damn it. Is it being raised by anxious parents that cause anxiety? Well, people have been adopted that have developed psychiatric disorders. Their parents have been no psychiatric disorders, but their biological parents did have psychiatric disorders. Yeah, and so it's like, or you get adopted too by people with psychiatric disorders and you turn out just fine. So it's too complicated to just say genetics. We know that schizophrenia is on chromosome 18. You can kind of find it. There's a retrovirus genetic that's in there called the Bornavirus that we can find. If you have this Bornavirus, it increases your probability of schizophrenia. Yeah. There's a book, which we're going to talk about next class. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Never buy that book. That's like looking at WebMD when you have a rash and you Google it. You run from allergic reaction to scabies in about 30 seconds on trying to figure out what that little rash is on your arm. Turns out it's usually just dry skin. Just get over it. But because you have one of these letters after your name. No, but you go through proper training and you go through the proper training and I want to say credentialing, but it's experience. So if you work with autistic kids and you see a large spread of autistic kids, you can tell level of functioning very, very quickly. So schizophrenia spectrum disorders could be just someone who is like Phoebe on Friends, so schizoaffective or schizotypal personality, just very disorganized thoughts, versus someone who is full-blown schizophrenic with all the chronic symptoms of schizophrenia. So we'll talk more about schizophrenia next class because there's no like you have schizophrenia, you don't have schizophrenia. You kind of slowly slide into it. The longer you go without treatment or care, what happens to the severity of the disorder? It gets worse. That's the million-dollar question. There are certain characteristics and certain brain activity that you can look at. You can look at the way their eyes move when you do things. There's a lot of little tests that test the physiological functioning to determine if someone is. It's hard to tell if you have somebody talking about cerebral palsy. They could be autistic and cerebral palsy and schizophrenic because schizophrenia, as you get older, people with cerebral palsy can become schizophrenic as they get older because of the brain mechanism. So it's like, we call it comorbidity, which are two things go simultaneous. Like obesity and high blood pressure are comorbid. And then diabetes is also comorbid. So if you're overweight, you're likely to have high blood pressure and you're likely to be diabetic, which increases your blood pressure, which you see how that, and that's why you see these people like in The Biggest Losers, which she left for that part, but these people were suffering from all these health problems. And they lost a bunch of weight, and what happened to all their health problems? They went away. Or the opposite, supersized me, super healthy, ate a bunch of crap, and got all these health problems. And so what was the cause of all the health problem change? Well, the diet, but there's a lot of other factors that lead into it. So it's too messy. Psychology is the clinical part of psychology is very still Stone Age-ish. So before we go too far, the psychodynamic looks at your unconscious mind. Thanks for an extra bump in the end, sorry. Okay, so I like this word. I don't like subconscious because I've studied the brain enough, everything that happens in your brain is not conscious. Only very, very little things are conscious. But what happens is that when someone says subliminal or subconscious, technically that means under your awareness. Not conscious of. So the thing is that if you're not conscious of things, do they affect your behavior? Not by definition of what consciousness is. You see the problem I have with that? And the reason I'm using the word unconscious mind is Freud is the one that came up with the study of the unconscious mind. He's the one who said that you have this deep unconscious mind inside yourself. I'm going to post a video for you to watch on Canvas about Freud. It is not so 1970s creepy. It is hilarious. It's like, it's so out there and weird. It's just more for the weirdness of it than actually the content of it. But still, I'm going to post it for you. But Freud's whole principle is that you have this unconscious mind that's pushing your consciousness. Well, we actually do have an unconscious mind pushing our consciousness. It's called your limbic system. What is your limbic system? The drawn on there on the board. What does your hippocampus, amygdala, hypothalamus do? Oh no. It's your feelings. Now, your perceptions are the cortex. Remember? Because that's where your consciousness is, your cortex. But what happens, the limbic system filters what you pay attention to. And because the limbic system filters what you pay attention to, it is pre-conscious. It's giving you feelings as you're looking at something. It's making you feel happy or guilty or sad when you look at something. It makes you feel disgusted or angry when you look at something. Yeah. Pre-conscious is a much more behaviorist way of saying consciousness. I'm going to write another word up here that we've been using a lot this semester because I think it's really fun. Priming. So according to Freud, what your unconscious mind is doing is priming the way that you see the world so that you're pre-reacting to situations before they actually occur. How do I know that you're pre-reacting to certain situations? When someone is upset by something and you question them on it, if they get defensive, what does that mean? They did it. No, it means that they are trying to protect the way that they're feeling. Okay, so Freud would look for these defense mechanisms. He'd look for people who are rationalizing something. You stole that. Oh, I did steal $5 from Jen. We had to go buy coffee. It was $1.99. So she gave me $5 because she only had a $5 bill. Did I give her change? No, because I used my card to pay. So I kept the $5. So now, but, we bought dinner the other night. She didn't pay, so is it okay? See, rationalization just feels fine. So what happens is when you get defensive, your defense mechanisms are a way of adjusting your conscious feeling based on these pre-conscious things. This sounds great. However, how sciencey is this? Very low. It's what we call hindsight psychology. You look at a person the way they're acting, you dig in their past and find out why. As opposed to see how they're acting and project how they're going to go in the future. Psychodynamic, but there is something that psychodynamic is really important. What do most psychiatric disorders have in common? Trauma in childhood. Now, the trauma in childhood could be something very, very small. The childhood trauma could be something as leaving your kid at school, or the other kids pointing at them at the daycare, pointing at the lights. Okay? Can that cause trauma? Yeah, and if the child internalizes that, does that affect the way the child feels later? But what affects whether the child has trauma? The way it's dealt with. And so Freud focused a lot on the way the parents interacted with the child. And he sadly blamed the parents for a lot of the child's adult problems. Is that legitimate or not? Yes, I blame my mom for everything. No. I think she might start watching these. So I love you, Mom, so it's fine. Okay, so when we come back, I'm going to send out that little video to watch, and plus another one about nutrition.